To be a senator.
Smart woman.
Are you ready, Deb?
Yes.
Okay. We'll call the meeting of the Senate Finance Committee to order. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
I have a motion and a second by a plethora of people. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We're in executive session. Okay, we're going to take up bills that are going to go on the addendum calendar first to get those out of the way, make sure that they're done. The first one is Senate Bill 499.
I move on to pass.
And Senator Birdsell moves ought to pass, seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Okay, do we have a further motion?
I think there needs to be one technical amendment. Thank you.
Do you want to move amendment to 1207?
Yeah, I'll move
first?
amendment 1207.
Okay, so we'll take
I'll
the,
second.
and Senator Birdsell will second it. And now I think we're talking about amending 1207 as a committee amendment.
Yes. So on page 4, line 3, this section deals with possibility of ARPA funds. It should have referenced both section 9, which was on page 2, line 22, and section 10, line 34. So we just have to add and X.
Is that just on line 3 on page 4?
Yeah, so the
Okay.
committee amendment would be on
For
page 4, line 3, for purposes of funding RSA 18911A, comma, X, 1X, and X. So
Okay.
it's those two sections it references back to on page 2, line 22 and line 24.
Okay.
And LBA's got that? Understands it?
All right, so Kate did a really good job of pulling this all together. Section 1 is ARPA funding only. Section 2 is ARPA funding only, or $1 of general funds. Section 2D, 2A, B, and C are ARPA funding. 2D, we are funding with general funds at $499,000. That's the extra money for school meals. Section 3 is ARPA funding or $1. Section 4, the summer EBT program and the elderly simplified application, we are funding with general funds at 1.15. And then that's all laid out in the appropriation. So I would say, you know, when we get to a later bill today, you know, we're using some surplus monies, but I think as we did with a couple of other bills, most notably the firefighter cancer fund, which I think has received broad support because it should be a priority. I think funding these programs also should be a priority. So,
Further comments? Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Stephen. I agree it's a priority. I think it's a bill that just makes a lot of sense. You know, as I said, in 1973, I sponsored a bill, the school lunch bill. I just would ask the Senate President, right now we're running a marginal surplus. I think the March and April numbers are going to be very important to us as we go forward. Because when I look at the focus, what I see is the highway fund is behind, revenues from certain sources are behind. And I did notice that the number of of refunds is running quite high, like 125 million at this point. So I believe in the bill, and I think it's courageous to say we're going to fund it. But I think we should be cautiously optimistic as we look at the numbers.
What I would say is I agree with you, and there are a whole bunch of other bills, some still in committee,
Right.
some here in finance, and we're just not gonna be able to fund them all. We have to set priorities,
I understand.
so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion? All right, we're voting on Amendment 1207 as modified on page 3, or page 4, excuse me. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. 7-0. Now we have the bill as amended. It's okay, you know. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. And Senator Birdsell wants to take it out.
I heard that.
Okay. The next one that would go in the denim calendar is 559.
I'll move on to pass.
559. Okay,
So just by way of summary, Senator Prentice and Senator Lang worked on a floor amendment on this bill after it came out of HHS. It's a compromise. It allows the Vaccine Association to purchase this product without changing the definition of vaccine. The rationale for the Vaccine Association is to be able to ensure that parents who want this product are able to affordably get it, especially if they don't have insurance coverage for it.
and I believe that is in the Senate passed version, right?
It's, excuse me?
It's already in the
Yeah.
Senate passed version.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's why it just.
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. Just echo those comments and say the Vaccine Association program saves everybody money. It's a great program. The state combines buying power of everybody and gets a way better price by bulk purchasing. So everybody benefits from this program.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of ought to pass, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. And Senator Rosenwald, you want to take that one out?
Yep.
Okay, the next one on the list is 563.
Move on past. Second.
Okay, Senator Pearl, and Senator Innes. Relative to the federal immigration enforcement. Comments? Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I'd like to invite you all to visit Nashua and Manchester. Last year, they were voted the #1 and #24 safest cities in America. And the police in both of those cities have worked really hard to develop relationships with all of their communities. And the police chiefs have gone on record opposing this bill. Speaking from a finance perspective, the bill includes a mandate for local police to engage in federal immigration enforcement without any funding for training on how to comply with federal immigration law. This is outside the expertise of local law enforcement, and I believe it's going to end up costing the property taxpayers. The bill also doesn't contemplate compensating local law enforcement for the use of resources to detain people for up to 48 hours. And I think this is going to lead to property taxes as well. I think this is why the Municipal Association opposed the bill. I think it's likely that it's of Article 28A violation. And so I feel like if you think this is the right policy, you probably should put some funding in there. But this bill does not include any funding. Thank you.
Further comments? Senator D.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will oppose the bill as I did on the floor. As pointed out by my colleague, police chiefs from Manchester, Nashua, and a number of other cities wrote us a letter about this piece of legislation, saying that this piece of legislation would destroy what they have worked tirelessly to build, a way to integrate the population, to get the population enjoying the police and believing in the police and trusting the police. That's a big deal in the area that I represent. I represent Manchester, I represent the inner city in Manchester, where many of these people reside, because we have tenement housing, and we have, at this point in time, some reasonable housing, some de minimis amount, but we do have some. People gravitate to these areas. Our law enforcement people have worked tirelessly to create a situation that maintains law and order in our city. I think this virtually annihilates that, eliminates that. It puts them in a very difficult position. We all love law enforcement, and certainly no one cares more about it than the people in this room. But if we're going to do something like this, and force them to do things that they aren't supposed to do, the federal government is in charge of that. What we're going to do is cause consternation among the local community. And that's not a good thing. I've lived in the community for a long period of time. I've lived in the same home for the last 51 years. We have worked hard with local law enforcement to create a peaceful environment in our city. And we have, as I say, numerous entities from other countries coming in and integrating into the society. This is going to hurt us, according to our police chief, and I have great confidence in him. I think we ought to think about what we're doing here. Read the testimony. Municipal Association is against, others are against it. I mean, let's use rational thinking for a change. The impact on the property tax, the impact on other situations, I think those are all something that each of us will address in our own way. But I think from a moral standpoint, this sets the stage for a situation that I don't think any of us want to see. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Senator Bradley.
So I think there's a misunderstanding of this bill by the police chiefs, and as everybody knows, I'm almost always on the same side of the police chiefs on this. But to say that a town can adopt sanctuary policies, that local law enforcement cannot cooperate with federal immigration authorities to turn over people like the alleged murderer in Georgia or now this Haitian refugee in Massachusetts is just wrong. I think there's a misunderstanding there. And when you adopt sanctuary policies, you become a magnet for the problems that are happening in other states. So I think we should continue to support this bill.
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. The bill goes further than that, though. And on page 2, starting on line 26, requires local law enforcement to use their best efforts to support the enforcement. It's not just a prohibition on keeping the feds out. It actually requires action by local law enforcement, and that's where I think the costs and the likely unconstitutionality show up. So this is a finance committee, I'm just gonna stick to the money. Thanks.
Further discussion? Okay, seeing none. The motion is ought to pass. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
No.
And have 5-2, and Senator Pearl, would you like to take that on? Next on the list is 591.
Move on to pass.
Senator Bradley moves ought to pass, seconded by Senator Rosenwald.
If I can, Mr. Chair, introduce Amendment 1139.
Okay, Senator Bradley moves amendment 1139. I'll
This is
second
the
it.
shortest amendment I've ever seen that appropriates the biggest amount of money I've ever seen. Unfortunately, it's necessary. I have spoken to the Attorney General about, where the passage of 591 will lead us with expanding the caps and expanding a couple of other definitions, but also, with the plaintiff's attorneys promising to bring the vast majority of cases in to the settlement process. I think long-term for the state, this is a more equitable way of dealing with the harm that was created years ago by, the treatment of these juveniles at the YDC. The settlement process is working pretty well right now. The average settlement is somewhere in the 450K to 500K range. And I can't remember the number of settlements that have happened, but it's well over 100. If we pass 591, it's going to accelerate, and the verbiage of 591 calls for up to $75 million per year capped. So $60 million is the best guess, estimate, not guess, of the Attorney General. I don't think any of us like the position we're in. It's a difficult position, but in terms of the long-term interests of the victims and the state, it's the right way to go.
Senator Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we have a moral responsibility to right the wrong that has been committed against these individuals by the state. The 60 million, I think, is partial. We'll see what happens going forward. Again, I'm concerned about our revenues. I think everyone should be aware of that and be conscious of what's going on in the world, even as we speak. So just be conscious. I'll look at that focus every month and look at where the revenues are down. Look at the areas that are not producing the revenues that we had predicted, and I hope I'm proven wrong at the end of it, in the March-April situation, that things are better. But this is something that has to be done. If it has to be done, it has to be done. I was not in favor of taking the $100 million from the rainy day fund initially. I thought we should have funded it out of general fund monies, and well, we didn't do that, so we have to carry on. As I said, it's a moral obligation. And we work hard. I know I've worked with Senator Bradley. I've worked with Representative Rosenwald. Worked with the Attorney General. Worked with the administrator to look at this situation and the adjustment of the language in the bill sponsored by Senator Bradley makes sense, and upping the amounts of money that will be made available makes sense based on the gravity of the situation. So I'll obviously will support it. But do I worry? Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Rosenwald, you.
I also spoke with the Attorney General on Friday, and he told me he was hoping we could get by with 60. Might be up to 75. I hope it's 60. But what I wanted to say that on page 14, starting on line 20, allows for the state to bond some of these costs. There are requirements to go through fiscal and GNC. I hope we do not end up in a position where we have to bond this money, that we'll always be able to find the money to pay for it rather than bonding it. But I know we've given ourselves that possibility. I hope we don't get there.
Senator Bradley.
So I obviously don't like the bonding provision either, but it was part of the negotiated settlement between the plaintiffs and the Attorney General's office. The way the bill is structured does give us about as much flexibility, given the large dollars that we can, possibly have. One of the most important things, and I stress this all along to the Attorney General as he was negotiating with the plaintiff's attorneys, was that we had to have a several-year payout opportunity. We have that. As long as there is wise stewardship through the administrator, and I think that Justice Broderick has done a good job so far, of how the settlements get structured with the 5% interest for payouts over a period of time, will be hopefully able to manage this really pretty tragic and terrible situation, both for the state and victims, as best we can over the next couple of budget cycles. But I don't disagree with the bonding or the close look on revenue, and I think, as some of the other appropriation bills come before us, we're only going to be able to fund the very top priority bills. I think, cancer screening for firefighters, top priority. Hunger that we just did, top priority. I don't want to see homeless shelters closing. That may be another priority. Beyond that, I think we're going to have to be pretty darn careful.
Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with everything that has been said. Every time I see a bonding situation, I get quite nervous when we have paid for things out of a general fund appropriation and take an option to bond. When you bond, it costs you twice as much. What you do is you take the bonding, the capacity of the state, and you limit the bonding capacity. And you create a situation where people move that to the side basket when they're looking at the financial statement. They don't recognize that the commitment made to bond puts you in a situation for an extended period of time. Most of those bonds take, we have some 5-year bonds, and in the old days, we used to do 5-year bonds for quickies when we did software and things of that nature, which we, I think, have eliminated that as we move forward. But you got a 15 or a 30-year bond, you know what the cost of that turns out to be. To me, it's certainly the court of last resort. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion? Okay, the motion is on Amendment 1139S. It's already been moved and seconded, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Now we are voting on the bill as amended. Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. And Senator D, you haven't taken one out yet today. Okay. That is the ones that are gonna go on the addendum calendar, so that can start taking place now while we're going back. You've got your list in front of you. The House bills, we're not gonna take up for a while, to make sure that we get the Senate stuff. And the rest of the stuff on the list of bills, the 92, I should say 392, 394, 397, 551, and 590 right now. I've got those on hold. If anyone wants to object to that, we can talk about that later. Next one I was going to take up is 342.
Second.
Okay. Senator Pearl, seconded by Senator Birdsall. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go for it.
I think this bill provides a pretty good formula for looking at a different way of funding school building aid. I know many of us have had issues with the current formula, and I know there's certain schools in my district that have been waiting for funding, and they're under the current formula, they'll be waiting for quite a while. And I think this funding formula gives an opportunity for each district to understand what they're going to have coming and to plan accordingly. And I think it's a good way for them to look to the future and be budgeting for upgrades that they need to make to their school building infrastructure. So I would encourage the committee to support it.
Okay. Further discussion? Senator Bradley.
So, I don't disagree with anything you just said, but is the understanding that it would be best to be brought back in next year as part of the budget and potentially this bill be tabled when it gets to the floor?
I think that would be a good choice. I think this, anytime we're looking at spending this kind of money on a non-budget year, but this would certainly give our approval to the policy and give a thumbs up to look at it.
Further discussion? Motion is ought to pass. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. No. And ayes have it. And Senator Pearl, will let you take that one out too. 350.
Move out to pass. Cut it out.
Okay,
And I'd like to speak to that.
certainly, Senator.
So I've looked at some of the notes that have been sent to us based on the prima facie presumptions. And based on that and my conversation with Jared O'Connor, who does most of the work on workers' comp, they believe that we're talking about a very small group of first responders, and it won't be a great deal of money. So I think it's important that these first responders get some coverage in between their final determination of workers' comp. So that's why I moved ought to pass.
Further discussion? Senator D'Alessandro.
I think your question. Senator, on the line 7 of the bill, I have the employer and then shall maintain, but after the employer, those words are eliminated. Is that still
And
the
I
case?
apologize. There's an amendment in here
Okay.
in the book, and we probably should have moved
Okay.
Amendment 1099S, which clarifies the in the bill, we took out
Senator Birdsell moves amendment 1099S, seconded by Cindy. We'll just keep it the same.
Right, sure.
So in the original bill, the employer, it says the employer or its insurance provider shall maintain. Well, the employer is typically the insurance provider. So this amendment takes that out.
Right. Okay, I had that taken out. I apologize for not reading that. I do, I have. Okay, so
Did you need a copy of that, Senator?
I got it. Good.
Further discussion? Okay, the vote is on amendment 1099S. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And now the bill as amended. Is
Move it.
there further discussion?
Move on to
Okay.
pass as amended.
You've already moved it, and Senator Rosenwald has already seconded it. So, further discussion, seeing none, all those in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And Senator Birdsell, did you want to take that one out?
Sure.
Okay. All right, 362.
362.
Relative to body-worn cameras. Senator Ennis moves ought to pass, seconded by Senator Pearl. Discussion. Seeing people still trying to find it, I will wait for a minute. No.
No, straight.
Senator Rosenwald.
I support this bill, just looking at it again and seeing there's no appropriation to cover that cost. So we're just gonna make safety suck it up, I guess.
Certainly, like anyone else, they can come ask for funds through other means, yes. Further discussion? Okay, seeing none, the motion is ought to pass. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Ennis?
Yes, sir.
You get to take that one out, if you would, please. All right, I've got 404 on hold, 410 on hold, and the next one is 432.
This is not my expertise.
The big deal was, you got a host of big deals.
All right, so moved by Senator Pearl, seconded by Senator Rosenwald, 432. Discussion.
I just can't hit the ladder. I'm trying.
Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of ought to pass, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. And Senator Rosenwald, we'll give this one to you. Hey, you know.
I know, includes Churchill Downs.
Mr. Bragdon.
I try to get a fairly even distribution on these, so okay, I've got 442 on hold, 455 on hold, I've got 495 on hold, and we've already done 499, so 508.
I'll move on to pass.
I'll second that.
Okay, Senator Birdsell, and Senator Innes, TP. Okay, this one is relative to the duties of superintendent of county. Discussion.
Sadly, I understood.
Long title. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of ought to pass, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. And Regina, you can,
Yeah.
Senator Birdsall, you can take this out. I'm being too familiar. 518.
I'm gonna second that.
And Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Innes. Okay, discussion.
So, just looking at the revised fiscal note, $1 million expenditure, I mean, just based on things I've said before, we have to set priorities, and I think we should be cautious on this one.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is interim study. All those in favor of interim study say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and Senator Gray will take this one out.
Oh. You haven't given yourself any.
Well, that's why I gave me that.
Shares the love.
You know, I really, was trying to get in there. 583.
I move interim study,
Second.
and I'd like to speak to my motion.
Interim study. Senator Pearl and Senator Birdsall, you were recognized to speak.
Well, I was at the SVAC meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they voted not to support this. Their biggest concern about this is, and I share it, is when you're actually putting whether someone is active duty on your driver's license, that's fine when you're over here in the States. But once you, let's say a service person puts the A on for active, and then they get transferred over to close to a hostile country, they're not going to get a new license for a number of years. That may leave them open to hostile acts. So for that reason, the State Veterans Council chose not to support this, and I do as well.
Further discussion? Okay, the motion is interim study. All those in favor of interim study say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And Senator
I'll take it out.
Birdsall. Okay, I think that I've gotten everything on my list unless I skip by something. Any bill anyone else wants to talk about today? Senator Rosen? Yeah.
About Senate Bill 134, which was referred back here a few weeks ago. Just wondering if
Right.
there's an update.
I have been working on it. We actually have an amendment. I had Senator D'Alessandro look at it as well. The last person to look at it is DAS, because they needed to review it because of the medical insurance piece of it. It's in their hands right now. They know that they need to get it back to me probably by the end of the week. So I'm hoping that maybe next Wednesday I might have something.
Right. Thank you.
Are there any other bills anyone would like to talk about? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to come out of executive. Oh, Senator D'Alessandro.
House Bill 468.
Yep.
This is the upgrading of the laws for the Department of Education. I should do it, but the appropriation should go to legislative services because they're responsible for doing it. And I think it's reasonable to say it comes out of the education trust because it's all about it. It's all about education. Those laws haven't been updated for a long period of time, and just setting them aside and not doing it, I think creates problems for us. And as I said, I don't think it should be done by the Department of Education. I think it should be done by the legislative services, the group that writes the law, works the laws, writes out all of our stuff and so forth. But it needs to be done. It hasn't been done. It needs to be done. And I think pushing it back doesn't serve anybody's purpose.
And I agree with you, Senator. Right now, I have an amendment that has been drafted. You may get a couple of things, but it actually makes two appropriations, one to OLS and one to the Department of Ed, because they said that they didn't have the staff to go and do their part of this, because Department of Ed would do the policy stuff and the OLS would do the rest of the redrafting, making sure that all the references are correct and all the other things that go along with it. That will increase the appropriation, at least the way I have it drafted right now, by doubling it to 200,000. Is that enough to do the whole thing? Probably not, but they've got a budget coming up that they can request additional funds also. It also establishes a committee to do this and an advisory council to also do that, which would comprise of, the Board of Education, teachers, all of those things. And as soon as that's ready to come out, I'll certainly share it with you.
Okay, great. I think it's a meaningful action that must take place. What we've done with education law over the last number of bienniums is quite significant, and the laws should be upgraded. So I appreciate that. Appreciate the fact that you've found that OLS should have responsibility along with some work done by the Department of Education. And the cost of doing it is the cost of doing it. I think we got to suffer the cost of not doing it, and that's not knowing what we're doing, which is pretty bad.
And again, I, want to do that, want to do it pretty much the way you've said it. But there is still some pushback from certain people in the Department of Ed that we need to make sure that they understand that we're trying to do the right thing for the citizens of the state.
The Department of Education doesn't run the state.
Amen.
They are a department of the state. And I witnessed some activity yesterday with regard to DOE.
We suffered through it.
Yeah, well, again, you can offer it up as temporal works of mercy for your sins, sitting through all of that.
But I anticipate, having that amendment ready to go out to you guys
Great,
soon.
super.
Oh, apparently it's in your mind. So. Okay, so those of you that don't have your white binder out, you'll have to get your white binder to go look at it. All right. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay, any other bill anybody wants to discuss? I will take a motion to come out of the executive session.
So moved.
Multiple people. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Our business today being completely adjourned.